welcome to another edition of Lab Rats. My name is Andy Walker.
And I'm Sean Carruthers.
How are you?
I feel a bit weird talking like this.
On today's show, I just want to do a little Mr. Dress Up or Mr. Rogers sort of pacing for this episode because it's going to be full of complicated terms. Maybe it helps the slower viewers stay on top of this stuff. Like
Are you calling our viewers? Oh, he was insulting me all along?
Welcome to Lab Rats!
Oh, jeez. We're talking about monitors today.
That's exciting.
Yeah, and this is by popular demand. We've had a few requests out there. Can you tell us about monitors? What do all these terms with monitors mean?
Is that the voice they use?
Yeah, the guy at the store was trying to tell me that I needed one that was this specification, otherwise I'd be a sucker. And I don't want to be a sucker. So
today we're going to teach you how to buy a monitor.
Yeah.
What all those weird refresh rates mean, and milliseconds ratings, and all kinds of stuff, hertz and stuff.
and whether you need it.
And whether you need it. Right. I like my old CRT, frankly.
And a lot of people out there still do, and we'll talk about that later too.
All right. Well, stay tuned, because we've all kinds of fun monitor buying tips coming up after this fabulous message.
If a Gorilla was the new Camtasia Studio 5, it would be leaner, it would be meaner, and it wouldn't steal your bananas. The new Camtasia Studio 5, screencasting software that's better than a gorilla.
Okay, so every time we come to the West Coast, there's a whole different vibe about shooting lab rats out here. I don't know what it is.
Well, we don't have Biff and Boo wandering around.
And we have
yelling
the
in the
surrogate,
Yeah.
feline.
Yeah, we have
This
this
doesn't
one.
like me, by the way.
She's just a very shy cat. She doesn't like much, so she's very shy. So we can get her up here for a few seconds at a time, but that's about it.
And then she'll run away.
And then she'll run away.
Right. Okay. Well,
But yeah, it's a different vibe for sure. Every single time.
all right. Let's talk monitors.
Yes.
So where do we start? So here's the thing. Okay. So somebody's going to go out. They're going to buy a new computer. They want a monitor, obviously. Maybe they're like, ooh, sexy, skinny one.
Yeah.
LCD flat panels are very, very affordable these days relative to where they were. So where do you start? How do you choose a monitor? Where, I guess do you start with the size, I suppose, do you?
Yep, size and resolution.
Size and resolution. Okay, let's go there.
Well, the first thing to think about in terms of size and resolution is the difference between most old school monitors, your CRT, your big tube monitor, and the LCD monitor. The tube monitor, you had your choice of what your screen size was going to be. With these monitors right here, you do to an extent, but you do have hardwired pixels in here. So on the old one, it would spread it around your screen. These ones, it's a 1-to-1 ratio if you want it to look proper.
So there's something on LCs called native resolution.
Native resolution.
And that means there is a certain number of pixels, and there's an optimal resolution that you would use on a specific piece of hardware. Whereas before on CRTs, you could actually focus that gun sitting in there, and you could actually change the resolution on the fly. Here you can do it, but it makes it kind of all soupy. The picture all soupy if you go too big or too small, right?
So the reason for that is they had phosphor spread around the inside of the old school screens, and it allowed you to spread it around a little bit more. These ones, because they're really hardwired, each one is a tiny little light back here.
Yeah.
When you have 1,000 of them across, and you're saying, okay, well, display 900 of them across, for example, what you're doing then is this one is right, the first one will be right, but the second one is wrong. It's not displaying exactly what it should be displaying because it has to fudge it to fit those 1,000 down into 900,
Right.
for example.
Whereas on the CRT,
Or spread
just
them
like
out.
a flashlight, right, or in England a torch,
Yeah.
right? It's just you're basically you're right widening or shortening the beam here, whereas you
Right.
can't do that here because you got on or off or intensity here and here and here and here sort of thing.
Right.
Got it. Okay, good. So you're going to choose your resolution, your native
Right.
resolution.
Right, so the first thing you want to make sure is that you're not choosing one that's too high. So if you have bad eyesight, for example, you don't want one necessarily that's too high resolution. So if you get one that's 1600 by 1200 or 1920 by 1280 or whatever it's going to be, then when you hook that up to your computer, you're going to have really tiny little print on your screen.
Right. So your start button is going to be like the size of smaller than a penny.
Right.
Kind of thing.
So if
Like
you
this
have
style.
if you have macular degeneration or something like that, or just your eyesight is poor for whatever reason, then you're always going to be squinting at your screen and trying to figure it, and then you're going to be changing your resolution to something that's not optimal, and it's going to look soupy, as we said earlier.
Yeah.
So you really want to match it to what you want to see. If you like big things on your screen, you want big text and all that, go for something with lower resolution.
Low resolution. Okay, good. And what would be a low resolution that would be reasonable to choose?
Well, most of them are coming into widescreen these days, and I don't have the numbers down 100% in my head like I used to. 4:3 it used to be 1024 by 768.
Sure, right.
That's good. And then there's 1280 by 960.
Right.
Those are reasonably common these days,
Right.
and you're not going to pay too much money for them. You are going to pay more for something that's higher resolution, so that'll be a downside as well to going that size. So get something that's around that level, about 1,000, 1,200 across, and I think you'll be hitting something that's reasonably good, and it'll be reasonably cheap too.
Cool. Okay. So next topic. Is it worth going to refresh rate now?
To
Refresh rate.
refreshed rate.
Refresh rate. Response time.
Response time.
Refresh time.
Yeah, see.
Response.
Okay, so, well, there is a refresh rate thing that we want to talk about a little bit later too, but
Okay.
Response time is
Response
one of the
time
things
is
that they're
is
really
the
selling.
buzzword that people really should pay attention to. when
Right.
they're buying not only an LCD monitor, but also an LCD TV as well.
Right, so what response time is the amount of time it takes a pixel to go from off to on to back off again. And the faster it can do that, the higher the resolution, or the higher the detail in your picture is going to be ultimately.
So from black, absolute black,
So back to
bright on,
bright on,
white, back
and
to
then
black
back
again.
to black
Right.
again.
And in LCD technology, we're talking about crystals inside of this liquid, twisting and going from twisting, which is blocking light, untwisting to expose the backlight, and then retwisting again to block it again.
Right,
And that's called
response time.
response time.
So now, where this becomes really important is when you're doing things like playing computer games.
Sure.
So when you have really fast action, you've got really high frame rates, you want a really fast response time. Otherwise, you get ghosting, you're getting weird picture trails.
Because
and
the
things
pixels
like that.
aren't keeping up, right?
The pixels
Right.
aren't necessarily going to keep up.
Right.
And on a TV, like we've got in behind us, what you'll want a high response rate for is sports.
For LCD.
For LCD,
Yeah.
if you've got an LCD television, if you're watching a lot of sports, you want a really high response time. So they're pushing that towards 4 milliseconds.
Right.
And that's really good. And some are saying they're getting it down to 2.
Right.
And there's a point around there where consciously you're not really seeing it anymore. But going on in the other direction, back towards 16 milliseconds, then you're going to start noticing it, definitely. So here's the question, is what are you going to be doing with your screen? Is it something that's changing really rapidly all the time? If so, then one with a faster response time, which would be a lower number, is one that would actually be good for you.
So gamers want to aim at a 4 millisecond response time
Right,
or lower.
as close to that
Right.
as you could.
But an accountant who's just doing spreadsheets,
Yeah, if you got spreadsheets, if someone's trying to sell you on response time and trying to get you to spend that extra $200 to get something with a good response time, you don't need it. If you're just checking your email using the web, you don't need it. So save your money, go with something with a lower, or like a slower response time, so a higher number, if you're not going to be changing your screen very often.
so 8 milliseconds is kind of middle of the road.
Yeah, and again, 1632 might not even be that bad for someone who's just doing a spreadsheet.
Right, very good. Okay, good. The other thinking is that, of course, the faster the response rate, the higher the price,
Yeah.
because it's advanced technology.
So that's exactly it. Save yourself a couple bucks if there is a huge difference. Now, as technology advances, they're going to be pushing all of that towards 4 milliseconds anyways. So if you're watching this in the future, you may not find much of a difference between the price. So it doesn't hurt to go for something with a faster response time if there's no huge price difference.
Got it.
But you
Okay.
don't need it necessarily.
And, okay, good. Next thing?
So next thing is contrast ratio.
One of my favorite topics.
So why don't you explain what contrast ratio is?
Contrast ratio is a measurement of the blackest pixel and the degrees of brightness to the brightest pixel. So on most, now I know it's in the television world, and specifically because we came back from CES recently, I have another comment about that, but so your contrast ratio on an LCD television typically is 20,000 to 1, meaning there's 20,000 gradations between black and white. Of course, what you want is more of those, right, to get a really crisp picture. Now, this new OLED technology, or organic light emitting diode screens, they have a contrast ratio of 1,000,000 to 1. When you look at those screens, they're absolutely gorgeous. Now, we're not going to see OLED screens for laptops or for desktops anytime soon, but maybe in the next 2 to 4 years we might. But anyway,
Right.
So that's contrast ratio.
Yeah, and when you're looking at contrast ratio on most LCD monitors, you're actually going to find something a lot lower than 10,000 anyways. You're going to be looking at something in the hundreds to low thousands anyhow. So where this really plays a big part, I think, for most computer users is what type of work are you going to be doing? Again, if you're doing spreadsheets, not so big a deal. If you're going to be doing graphics work or photography, better contrast ratio is better. So the higher your number is in the contrast ratio, the better off you'll be, because you'll see more subtle shades in between this point and that point. They won't just all block together into a brick. So higher contrast, better for people that need really fine detailed work, especially with color.
And of course, if you're going to be showing television-like images, moving images, of course, you want higher contrast ratios as well.
It does help. And again, if you're just going to be surfing the web, then maybe don't pay much attention to it. Now, if you've got a low contrast ratio, what you'll see on black is a little bit of a glow behind the pixels. If that's not a big deal to you, then so be it.
Right. Yeah. So when your screen's black, it'll kind of look like a glowy gray.
Yes.
But that just means that, because LCD, of course, is a blocking technology.
Yeah.
So it's got a backlight, and then it's blocking the light. And what happens is, on the lower cost of the budget screens, what's happening is you're getting bleed around that blocking. So you're actually seeing a bit of glow behind that.
All right.
Good.
One
Final thing?
Well, there's a couple of things, I think. There's monitors in the past, as you just mentioned, they have a backlight on them.
Yes.
In the past, they've been all fluorescent tube based. And there's a new generation of monitors coming out that actually have LED backlights.
This one here, this is my laptop. This is the Dell M1330, and that whole new line, this XPS line, actually there is this LED backlight.
Right, so LED is light emitting diode, and you may have seen some of these new lights that are available for consumer use, little spotlights, flashlights, whatever. They emit really bright white color, and they use it with really low power as well, so you can get really bright lights without a lot of power and not a lot of heat generation either.
Oh, right, yeah, that's good.
So one thing, they're putting them into notebook screens at this point, despite the fact that they're more expensive, because it does allow you to get a longer battery life and allows you to have looks like a more even picture in some cases.
Which is true.
Sometimes not so much, depending on the quality of the LED backlight. But so there's a question: is it worth spending that much extra money for that? For most people, I'm not 100% sure that it is.
I mean, if you have an option, I mean, in this particular case, I chose this. I think it was a $150 option to upgrade to that, and it's been worth every penny.
Yeah. So if you're looking for the display on your notebook, absolutely it will help, because it'll make the picture a lot more clear, I find.
Yeah.
A lot brighter, and it will make your battery last longer despite that.
So what about on the desktop?
On the desktop, it's not so huge an issue at this point. If you want to save energy, of course, it is a good option. And in some cases, it will make the picture better.
Very good.
But, a badly implemented LED backlight,
Right.
not necessarily worth the extra money.
And the other thing is if you see a deal that's too good to be true, on either an LCD TV or a monitor, and you're like, well, how come that's $200 cheaper? And if you look at all the specs, and similar specs, but still much cheaper, it's probably because they have a lower quality backlight, and which means it may burn out quicker. It means just the quality of the image isn't as good, because the bulb or the technology implemented for either the fluorescent or the LED is not as good. So that's a little secret.
All right. Last but not least, really quickly, because we're running a bit long, power, or the connectors on the back.
Sure.
So in the past, we had VGA connectors,
Right.
which are the little blue ones that are sort of in a trapezoid shape.
Yep.
15 pins. Then it moved to DVI, which a lot of these are moving. That's a digital interface. The old VGA ones were analog. And now on newer ones, there's HDMI on them as well, and some of them even have other connectors for other inputs, for like your DVD player and whatnot. So the question is, what do you need? Are you going to be using your monitor only on a computer that is playing games or whatever? Then you'll have the connector on the back of the computer match the one to the other.
Right.
Obviously, if you're planning to use this to run DVD, say you're in a dorm room and you don't have a lot of space to have a television as well, you want to use this as a television too, the HDMI connector on top which will add extra money to it, is not a bad choice necessarily, because then you can hook your DVD player, you can hook your PS3 directly into it, and you can hook other things into it as well.
Right.
So think about that as well when you're buying. Do you need it? Not necessarily, but it could be a good way to save space in your room or your office or whatever.
Very good. Okay, good. That was a pretty good roundup, I thought.
Here we go.
There you go, kids. That's how to buy a monitor. Okay.
So I guess that's that.
That's that. Let's pause now for a message from our sponsor. When we come back, we have, I think, a few more pictures.
We do have some
And
pictures.
some final thoughts after this. Okay. And we're back.
Yeah, and our old director Matt just showed up right between the last bit and this bit, and he's already taken over. He's giving us the countdown and all that.
It's a very good count.
Thanks, Matt.
Did they cancel the Bruins game?
Bruins won.
Oh,
Woo!
see, the game's over, so he shows up.
Yeah, there we go.
So sad.
This is why we lost him for like the last year and a half, is because
80 episodes.
the Bruins were on a winning streak or a
winning
losing streak.
Right.
But they were playing, so.
Good
Anyways,
All right, so we're done with the monitor discussion, right?
I think so. We're
More or less.
going to maybe talk about pricing, but you know what? It's always changing. You're spending like a couple $100s on a reasonably good monitor these days. And the trains are back. Did you bring the trains, Matt?
No, they're got a mind of their own.
Okay.
All right.
So, I mean, just price around and you'll find a good price. But, you know, it's down to the price that CRT monitors used to be.
Yeah, $300 or so.
Oh, we were going to mention that there's... Matt's just disrupting things
girlfriend's showing up
already.
There's other scores coming off the wire here, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, so we did mention off the top that some people were still interested in CRTs.
Yes.
And I think that's maybe about to change, but graphic designers really do like CRTs better because they are able to display color a lot better.
Color matching to print is much more closer, I suppose.
Whereas just the phosphor in the inside of the monitor has much greater range of shades. So that is changing now with the LCD monitors. They are getting a lot better. They're not quite still to that level. So true professionals in graphics that really need to know that color exactly might still want to do CRTs, and there are still there's still manufacturers out there that are doing those, but you typically don't have to think about that. So
But if you stick with a CRT, make sure you buy some dumbbells too, because they're kind of heavy still.
they are kind of heavy, so you will have to lift them.
All right. All right. I want to see the pictures.
We got
Should
pictures.
we sing the theme?
No, we don't have a theme yet.
It's picture time. It's picture time. I don't know. I'm hoping you guys are gonna send in like a little theme song that we can play in this spot here. Oh well. Okay.
Maybe I'll write one.
Okay. Good.
All right.
Can we do it like this? It's picture time.
You're back to the Mr. Dress Up thing?
Yeah, I know. I don't know.
Pull something out of the tickle trunk?
Yes. Okay. All right. Pictures. It is picture time. It really is. We do have a
Yeah.
couple pictures.
Yeah, there we do. We've got a puppy. This is our viewer Joe's puppy, Megan. And this is in London, in the UK. You wouldn't necessarily know from the ground here, but Megan's sleeping underneath some grass because apparently she was looking for some lab rats or something.
That's right.
According to
Badgers.
Joe, anyways. So but
Yeah.
yeah, there we go.
Very cute. What's Megan? Megan the puppy?
Megan the puppy.
Do we
or
know what
Megan.
breed Megan is? Megan is?
It's hard to tell underneath all that grass.
Right.
A grass terrier.
Grass terrier. Nice. Okay.
Right.
Shayna.
More dogs. This is Shayna and her dogs, Pepper and Chloe.
Oh, so cute.
So there we go.
The dogs have the same haircut.
They do.
And I see Shayna's update on Twitter all the time. She's in the podcaster.
Yes, I think she's submitted a photograph of her son before.
Oh, fantastic.
I believe.
We love you, Shayna. Keep up those great podcasts.
And here we go. Justin from Ohio.
That's a nice picture.
Yeah, Justin actually went out of his way to give us a picture that was matched to our monitor and our podcast, a widescreen one. So thank you for that, Justin.
Wow.
And Justin's actually got a dual display here. He's maybe followed our previous podcast and figured out how to do that, but there you go.
Very cool.
So the dual display also is widescreen on this monitor too.
And where's he from?
Justin's from Ohio.
Ohio, fantastic. Hey, Justin,
So
way
good.
to go, buddy. Nice picture. All right. Is that it?
And that's it.
That's it. I'm so sad. Another
Why?
episode of Lab Rats is finished. I do love making this show, you know. And I do love you.
Really?
Yeah, because we don't smell, at least. Anyway, that's it for us. Thank you so much for downloading. My name is Andy Walker,
I'm Sean Carruthers.
and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Are you ready? Try this at home.
All right, 3, 2. Oh, somebody's at the door. One moment, please.
One moment, please.
Just leave it. 3, 2.
Wait a second, give it extra time because I use a 5-second pre-roll.
Oh, all right.
Haha.
We're pre-rolling. Okay. And we're back.